Okay, so the next goal is to get a new object, which is going to be a title, to stick to that empty marker. So I'm just going to warn you that we're going to be using a lot of, they're called keyboard shortcuts. And um, if you look down here, every time I push a button, it'll say, so I just keep pushing N, and this is the 10th, 11th, 12th time. If I push G, um, if I rotate with the middle mouse wheel, you can see that lighting up. If I push the left button, the right button. So anyways, we want to get, first we want to make this view make a little more sense. So let's pretend that this square grid right here is going to be like a canvas that we want to draw on. So right now, we want to be looking down at our canvas, and our camera right now is looking to the side and to an angle. So to reset that, normally G grabs it and moves it, but if we want to reset those that position coordinates, if we push Alt, so I'm going to push Alt G, you can see there it jumped right to the center. And then normally R messes with the rotation, but I want to reset that R so it's looking straight down, so Alt R. And now if I slide it up on its Z axis just by clicking that Z, I'm just sliding it straight up, and I can keep going. Now it's looking straight down on our canvas. And if I push number pad 0 again, it's going to look different on my computer. I push Alt 0, but you push the number pad 0. Now we're looking straight down on our canvas. So we want to put a square object on that point. So we can right click that point, and it's smart enough to know that that's where we want it. Now if I do Shift A, you can add, we want to add a square. So you can do this multiple ways in Blender. You can do Shift A and it brings up this menu, or you can do Add down here. Normally you can, and it's the same menu. So Shift A, bring up a plane, and I'm going to slide it on the X axis out of the way and the Y axis. But now as we play the video, it doesn't move, so we want to somehow glue or attach this square plane to this empty marker. So that's called parenting. If we make this empty marker a parent of this square plane, then this will stick to it. So I select this one and I hold Shift and click on the marker, and it selects them both. The bright yellow is what we're going to parent to, and hit Control P, and it says set parent to that empty object. Now, as we play through, if you go back to the beginning and push play, wherever that marker goes, the square goes. But the square is too big, so I'm going to scale it, shrink it if you want, on the Y axis. So I hit S to scale, and then I'm going to constrain it to the Y axis. So I push Y, and now as I pull the mouse in and out, it shrinks and grows on the Y axis. And then I'm going to move it and shrink it again on the Y axis. Now if I go back to the beginning and play, and maybe I don't want it to cover, so you can always click and just grab it with the G and move it wherever you want, or if you want to be more precise, you can click the X-axis red, move it there, and push play. So the next thing we want to do is add some text on top of it. So right click to move your cursor right there, Shift A, because you want to add, Shift A, and go to text. Let's move the text for now up here so we can see. Right now it's in object mode, which means we're just seeing the object in its final form. But if we want to edit it, you can go to edit mode, and now because it's text, I can delete and say something and go back to object mode. So that is a little too big, so let's shrink it to about there. So the problem is, we have a couple problems. First, the square and the text are the same color. So let's change the color of this square rectangle to a different color. So over here, we have all these selections up here. And this little circle thing is how we change our material. So if we click that, and we have our rectangle selected, we want a new material. And right now, the material looks like this. It's going to be kind of a shiny white. But if we change this to blue, it'll be kind of a blue with a shiny part. So we don't want it to be shiny in its final form. You can't see it here because this is just a preview. But if we click shadeless, we want it to be kind of a flat, matte blue. Now let's change our text to white. So I'm selecting the text, new, and it's already white, but we don't want it to be shiny, so click shadeless. It should be white. But we're not quite seeing that, so I think we need to move it up a little bit. See, like right now it's behind it. It's on the other side. So if you have it selected and move it up on the Z-axis just a little bit, there you go. Okay, we have one more problem though. As the box, or as that rectangle and empty move, the something is no longer attached to it. So what we want to do is, once again, we want this to glue to this this rectangle. So let's move it back into place. And we want it to be parented to that. So something is selected. I hold Shift and I click on the box, and now the box is also selected. I'm going to parent it with Control P to the object. Go back to the beginning, and as you play through, the box and the text are now all connected. So the cool thing about, because we parented it to this rectangle, now if we move the rectangle, the text moves. If we shrink or scale it on the X, if we don't, or on the Y, now the text is stuck to that. So, great. So we're about ready to render our final animation. If you want to see a preview of what it's going to look like, right now we're in the preview mode down here. But if we go up to the rendered mode, it doesn't look like we want it to look. Right now we're seeing the world around here is gray. So if I go to rendered, the world is still going to be gray, which we don't want. So in our render settings, which is this camera right here, so we were on material. If we go back to this camera, we have to go to shading, open that, and we want to see through the world. We want it to be transparent, and that's called alpha. Right now it's set to sky. We want it to set it to transparent. So now we're getting very close. So let's say we're happy with that, and if we click render, this is what happens. We have our something here, and then we have this huge transparent background. So what we need to do is tell it to put the video clip behind there. So if we go to, this is our timeline, but if we click here and we go to our node editor, we're going to composite the video clip behind the text. So I selected nodes, and then if I click this, it's like two sheets of paper, one behind the other. That's our compositor. We want to use nodes. So right now we have, this is our render layer, and we want to put our movie clip we want to combine the movie clip with it. So if I do Shift A again, I want to input. So I'm inputting a new thing. It's our movie clip, which is already loaded. You can open the movie clip, or since it's already loaded, click here, drag it there. And we want to mix the two together, and that's in the color section. We mix. I'm going to drag the image right there into the top, and the image into the bottom, and put it into the composite. Oh, something changed, but it's not working, and we need to push, we need that transparency to be included, and this symbol right here means include the transparency, and that looks right. Maybe. The final thing is, remember the dimensions of the video? It was 1920 by 1080. Well, this is what the image should look like. So we can see feet and a stroller, and we can see that rock right there, but when I go to the final image, it crops all that out. And that's because the render resolution, it's set to 1920 by 1080, but we're only doing 50% of that. So you can turn that up, and then hit render, and now we have the full image. The last thing, before you export the final animation, you want to choose a folder. So I'm going to say I created a new folder with that button right there, render 1. I'm going to select the folder and say accept. And right now it's going to make a series of PNG pictures. PNGs are higher quality, but they take up more memory, so let's change it to JPEG. And we're going to create a series of JPEG pictures, frames, and hit animate. Instead of clicking render, we clicked animate, and then that's going to go from frame 1 to frame 282. And the nice thing about choosing JPEGs instead of rendering it straight to a movie file, if the computer crashes or something goes wrong, all of these pictures that we rendered, they're saved. So there's frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4. If you were rendering a movie clip and the computer crashed, the file would be corrupted and it wouldn't work. So you'd have to start from the beginning. But now, let's say we cancel it here, we still have our frames that we can now convert into a movie clip. So this is the last step. We'll go to Video Sequence Editor. And how many frames did I? So I only have 27 frames. So instead of the end frame being 282, let's just set it to 27. We'll go to Video Sequence Editor. We'll scroll back to frame 1, Shift A. We want to add an image sequence. I'll select my render, select all the clips by hitting A, add image strip. You can use a backdrop. And now if you play it or scroll through it, it moves, and we can set it to QuickTime Video. Hit animate again. And now it's converting those frames into a movie clip that we could use in iMovie, for example. So now we have all those frames, but we also have a movie clip, and if we watch it, it's going to be basically a second long clip. There it is.